Hi, how y'all doing? Welcome to the first ever Hench and Sauce podcast. Today we're going to be going over the Chicago Bears season, what our feelings are about the season, and then we're going to take control of the team and fix it how we would fix the Chicago Bears. And just join us on this first ever Sauce and Hench podcast, and let's get it going.
All right, and as Joe introduced, this is the first ever Hensch and Sauce podcast, and as he said, we're talking about the Chicago Bears. Uh, First thing we want to do is, I don't want to do this, but we got to do a breakdown of last Sunday's game at home against the Detroit Lions. Joe, just take us through. I don't even want to care about like majority of the game. Just take us through those last 4 minutes when the Bears were up 10 points and still managed to
Yeah.
lose.
So, first off, I'd like to say that I would much rather have a loss like we did against Green Bay, even though it pains me to lose to Green Bay. I'd much rather have a loss to where I'm blown out than have my heart ripped out like it was against the Lions. So, but if I'm going to run through the last few minutes, as Miles said, two things I do not like about it. One is one of my least favorite things that a defense does late in games when they have a two-score lead is prevent defense. I hate it. I hate it so much. I'd much rather just play normal defense like you have the whole game, because what did it cost the Bears? An easy drive down the field and a touchdown. So it didn't kill you yet, though. But then it's just two simple things: the prevent defense, and two, running the ball. That's literally, if we didn't play prevent defense and ran the ball, the Bears probably still win by 10 games. And even if you still do prevent defense and run the ball, you probably still win by 3 points. But those last few minutes, they did prevent defense and then made Mitch a pocket QB, and we lost the game because of it. So, I mean, were you seeing the same kind of thing, Mild, or what?
The thing I saw is whenever I talk about the Bears now, I always revert to 2 years ago when they went 12-4. What went well that year, and what are they not doing well now? And the matter of the fact is, bottom line, we're not creating pass rushers anymore. We're paying Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn to create distress on the quarterbacks, and Matt Stafford, who's a great quarterback, he's just been on a terrible franchise his entire career, just stood back and picked apart our defense. Our defense isn't good enough for Stafford just to stand there and throw it, and they proved that. And they're missing their best receiver in Galladay. That's the worst part, is that he kept picking us apart. And
Yeah,
yeah, I agree. Pedal to the metal. Go out there and keep playing the same defense you have the entire game. Why change it the last 4 minutes of the game? I get it
exactly.
if we were up by 17 and they had the ball with less than 2 minutes. Then who really cares? Give them the underneath stuff. This game's over anyway. We gave Detroit so many opportunities to stay in this game, and that's what prevent defense did. And
Yep.
again, like you said, Trubisky, a pocket passer, is not who he is. And I will say he looked a lot more comfortable this game than he had in previous games. But I tell you
That's
what, when he got strip sack, I never had felt my heart collapse more than when Roger Davis hit that home run against the Cubs in 16. It hurt. Personally, like it legitimately, I sat there and I go, "What just happened?" Like Detroit just
yeah.
strip sacked us, and now they're going to go score a touchdown with Adrian Peterson.
Well, it wasn't even as soon as he dropped the ball that my stomach started to sink. It was as soon as he took the snap and I realized we weren't running the
Yeah,
freaking ball. I was like,
we
are you kidding
we
me?
did so well that game running the ball with Montgomery, Cordell Patterson, and it was like you gotta be kidding me. You were giving them timeouts at this point.
Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario out of that whole thing should have been we punted. It should have been
Exactly.
three straight. We started by running with David, but here's the reason why I say worst case scenario you punt is because where have the Bears allocated all their money in the past 2 years?
Their defense.
Yes. So you allocate all that money there, but you don't trust them to go and get that big stop to when you punt the ball. Because, like, okay, yeah, did they just give up a touchdown? But yeah, because you're in prevent defense. We're not going to be in prevent defense to finish the game with a 3 point lead. I trust our defense to go out enough to go run the ball 3 times and punt. I guarantee the reason Nagy didn't want to punt or didn't want to run was because the first play of that drive they ran and it was a 2-yard loss from David.
Well,
But
Detroit expected that.
yeah, but I'd rather run it 2 more times, make them waste their timeouts, and then go throw our where we thrown all our money out to go get a stop and win the game.
It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be a handoff to Montgomery up the middle. Why we did this a couple of times during the game. We had a wide receiver go in motion and do like a simple touch pass and have them go around the edge. Force the Detroit defense to beat you around the corner. And we did that with Miller. We have Darnell Mooney that can do that. Why didn't we do that at least? Change directions. We don't have to run HB dive 3 times in a row and be like, all right, well, we're forcing our defense to win the game.
Yeah, but not make – let's just put the 2 scenarios in your head. Mitch, to win a game, Mitch is a pocket passer or our defense? What am I going to choose? And any normal human being would choose our defense, but for some reason, Matt Nagy continues. It's because he does not want to change who he is. And what happened when he finally changed who he was at the start of that game? Realizing that we're not the big shot team and we're a boring offense that runs the ball and makes short passes. What did the Bears do? We put up 30 points.
Right. We scored 25 last week.
Yeah. And it's because we have a boring offense. And he doesn't want to admit that we do. He wants to have the flashy Kansas City play style. But
that's where he came from, of course.
We don't have that quarterback. We don't have that quarterback, and we don't have an O-line to do that either. And credit to the O-line because they played great last game. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's they did switch around.
It's trust. Trusting in your offensive line to protect your quarterback and run the ball. They want to sit there for you to pass the ball, God knows, like 35 times. Let them be physical old linemen and go out and hit their opponent in the mouth and run it with Montgomery. Yeah. And some of my positive, talking about positives, not only from the game, but from the season. But most importantly from the game, I see all over Bleacher Report and sometimes just from fans and stuff is just is David Montgomery good or not? I think he showed that if you let him get just past the line of scrimmage, just to where he's not getting hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage every play, if you just give him some sort of hole to start, I think he showed what he could be. That's what I think David Montgomery can be in the NFL is what he showed against the Detroit Lions. Well, remember last year, first game of the year, the Bears were playing Green Bay in the 100th anniversary. I'm pretty sure the Bears threw the ball, it was about 50 times. I don't think I'm exaggerating this. And Montgomery got how many carries? How good is he going to be if he doesn't get his touches? Yeah. And Nagy continued to do it to where Montgomery would bust a huge 10 or 12-yard run, and then all of a sudden he's on the sideline again. Feed him the rock, man. Just feed him the ball. Let him run. You and I always talk about that 12-4 year, okay? And I always said the 2 most important things, 3 things that a championship team needs is a good running back to milk that clock, a defense that's going to have any quarterback go out there, go 3 and out, get off the field, and have him just stand on the sidelines while we run the ball down your defense's throat 30 times in this game. And then the third one is a good kicker because we're Bears fans and we understand that you do need a good kicker. There's a positive about the season. That's the main golden positive is I think we, knock on wood, finally found a kicker because Santos showed he had some stones throughout the year for me. That's my boy, man. I know we started the year with Eddie Pinheiro, but I'm okay with Santos staying after this year. Eddie lost his job when Santos nailed that kick. What game I think was it? He nailed 2 big kicks against Tampa Bay, and then was it and unfortunately Carolina? Unfortunately, we lost the game, but he nailed a huge one against the Saints. That's it. When he nailed the one against the Saints, I was like, Eddie, you lost your job, brother, because he hit it from 50 plus and tied the game. Whereas I was just no shot. Just the Bears fan in me is he's gonna miss it. All right. Well, back to the Bears Lions. I know we were beating our heads on that drive where they got the lead, but I don't know if you saw this. I saw this when Trubisky completed the pass to Robinson inside the 20. He turned around and looked, and I don't know if it was just me, but it looked like the chain gang was a yard short. So when A-Rob turned, he saw the chain gang and went out where it was, and then looked up, and the orange thing that indicates where the first down marker was there. And I go, why was the guy a whole yard behind it?
Yeah. I so I didn't realize the whole chain game thing, like you said, until you said, because at first I was like, the announcer was saying like, "What is he doing?" And I was like, something had in my head. If it's any other player, I'm like, okay, yeah, what is he doing?
Like,
But it was
it's
Allen
Darnell Mooney.
Robinson,
We'll say it's Darnell Mooney, the rookie. That
yeah,
makes sense.
but it's Allen Robinson, who's one of the smart. He's a great player, but is also a super smart player.
Exactly.
So it's like, what the heck? And then you texted me that, and I was like, I went back and watched it, and yeah, I realized it too, but they didn't say one word about it.
No.
And I mean, but who knows? Like, I mean, yeah, he gets the first downs out of bounds, but Mitch also has to still make a good throw downfield. So,
right. Well, the two things that Allen Robinson understands, as you said, we both know he's a great wide receiver, mentally wise. It's catch the ball, get out of bounds, and get the first down, and that's what he tried to do. But then realized that the orange thing was a whole yard ahead of him, and he didn't realize it till he was already going out of bounds.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that
And
game was. I still don't know how to this point. I will get to this, but I don't know how to this day that we're recording this podcast. I don't know how Matt Nagy still has his job. I was sitting with my dad, and when we lost that game, it's like he should be fired by tomorrow morning.
Nagy's still Nagy. As
my phone every day.
What did Lance Briggs tweet? Nagy's gonna Nagy. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I think my favorite one was when Forte said, "I've been a part of some bad teams, but none of y'all deserve this."
Yeah. I felt in that game, I felt the same as I did like throughout some White Sox games this year, and the White Sox fixed it by like firing a manager that the players did enough to win and the coach lost the game. Like,
right.
And that should never be the case scenario. Like, if the players do enough should win, the coach should always be able to make right decisions. And Nagy didn't again.
Well,
over and over.
I butt heads with family members about this conversation. You and I have discussed this. Nagy's gone. We've come to terms with that. That
I hope so.
By the end of the year,
we hope so.
In my opinion, he should be. Every Bears fan would agree with me. Do you keep Ryan Pace though?
I feel like the only thing that scares me about Ryan Pace is that I think he's made good moves. Like to me, he's made two busts in his career. The drafting Mitch and not drafting Mitch, but trading up for Mitch.
Right.
Looks bad. And Kevin White. But Kevin White, you really can't blame him because it was injuries. So I don't even think that's a bust either. But
everyone was talking about how highly Kevin White was going to be a good receiver, but no one told the Bears he had shin splints.
Yeah, he never had the chance. I mean, if he never had injuries, I wouldn't doubt that he'd still be our number one wide receiver now.
Remember the one game we got to watch together? It was the Bears and Patriots 2 years ago. Kevin White caught that Hail Mary pass and fell just short.
Yeah, and that's the dude. That's the dude if healthy that we get. He's a guy that you could throw one-on-one balls to. But so the one thing that scares me about Pace is just how last year we had all the money invested in the defense already, and you alluded to the draft of why we drafted Kmet first and stuff like that. Like the thing that scares me is he thought that signing getting a new O lineman coach and just picking up a few O linemen would fix would make our O line like totally fine and be magically good. That's what scares me.
Right.
Is that like, I mean, I'd hope he'd be able to look at the team and be like, okay, I see two main needs and I can fix them. But the thing that scares me is that he saw the same kind of problems last year, and what did he do to fix them? He went and signed a guy in Nick Foles who's never started in his career before. has always been a career backup
Right.
and hasn't started more than 11 times.
I
I
know
think
he
was
got he got some starts in Philly the first time around, some in with the Rams, and then he got to start those playoff games for Philly, and then he started 2-3 games with Jacksonville because he got injured the first game of the
yeah.
year.
So you go to try and fix your quarterback position or create a quarterback competition by picking up Nick Foles' ugly contract and thinking that would fix it, and then you go and try and fix your O-line by picking up a Duffy, and I forget who the other guy was picking up, and drafting no O-lineman. So that's what scares me is that but I hope he'd be able to understand. There's no way he's stupid enough to not understand that we need to draft a quarterback and draft a lineman. Nagy, on the other hand, he still to this day does not want to change. Still to this day, two things: is still struggling with sticking with what offense works for this offense, and two, not being able to make late game decisions, which you have to
Right.
have to
Right.
win games, obviously.
You would think someone from the Andy Reid coaching tree would understand how to run an effective offense in late game situations. Look what he just did with the Chiefs last year in every game they played. Literally, every game they were trailing and came back and won it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I guess I would be okay. I would be okay if Pace stayed and Nagy got fired. I would be very upset if Pace and Nagy stayed. And I mean, so like happy as long as Nagy's gone, I'm happy, I guess. As long as Nagy's gone and Pace makes the right decisions to fix the team, or the decisions that I think are smart to fix the team.
I just think there's too many good head coaching candidates for the Bears to want to pass up on because we want to keep Nagy after these last 2 years have been nothing short of abysmal and mediocre. And as you're describing these moves by Ryan Pace, I think it's fair to say they're doing the bare minimum, pun intended. In the specific areas, we need an O-line, and that was everyone could see that. We couldn't get a run game going, and I defended Trubisky in the offseason and said, Trubisky's not bad. I said, but when you only are a one-dimensional offense, what do you expect?
Yeah.
We couldn't do anything effectively, and then we just relied on the defense all the time. And you wonder why our defense is so tired this year.
They look good. It's the same, like you said, like it's the same thing on defense. It has been all year. They look great the first few possessions, but when you go out there, make a 3-and-out, and then all of a sudden we 3-and-out, punt, and you're back out there and have to get another 3-and-out. Like
exactly,
they can't do it all game.
Exactly, especially sometimes you be, there goes an interception, and now they're gonna go start on the 32-yard line. What do you expect the defense to do? They just got over to the sidelines. You have Akeem Hicks, who's a big guy, is breathing oxygen, and he has to take it off and go back to the field. You don't think he's going to chase down Dalvin Cook effectively every time.
No.
But the positives for this year for me, I have a couple. The first one, the rookies. This is why I would keep Pace, because he's really good at finding diamonds in the rough. Outside of Komet, we had Jalen Johnson, where did he come from?
Utah?
Yeah. He's one of the best rookie defensive players of the year. Then Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, huge upgrade from Prince is what I was going to say.
Yeah. And
I love Prince, but
yeah, I really like Darnell Mooney from Tulane.
Yeah.
And those are really the big two. And then Komet's really good at blocking. I don't think he gets enough credit for sealing off the edge for Montgomery. He looked really good in that last game against the Lions. The other one would be Montgomery. These last two games, Montgomery's really impressed me because he's getting the carries and he's finally getting to play in the open field. He's not getting the ball going 2 yards and getting to behind his old line and having three jerseys around him already. What do you expect a running back to do? Walter Payton couldn't get out of that.
Yeah.
And I think another positive, it's still our defense. Defense still does a good job. They're not as crisp as they usually are, but they're still not preventing points, and that's the ultimate
Yeah,
thing you want from your defense.
yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. The funny thing about it is we did not send each other. We knew what the topics were between each other, but we did not send each other what we wrote. And the
Nope.
funny thing is that 3 out of the 4 that you mentioned are exactly what I have written down on my paper. Positives from season: David Montgomery, Darnell Mooney, and Jalen Johnson, all written down on my paper. All 3 written down on my paper, I think, are huge positives. I think Darnell Mooney, just kind of expanding off what you said, Darnell Mooney is going to be an explosive player for the Bears. It's talked about from a lot of the Bears insiders that I listen to, basically how the Bears never have really, like in years that I can remember, never had that like guy to where it's like some teams have, like the Saints, Michael Thomas, the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill. We'd never have had that guy to where it's like get him the ball and he can make a play. And I think Darnell Mooney could be that for us within coming years. Jalen Johnson, just add to the monsters of the Midway, another great defensive player that I think is going to be around for a long time for us. And then, like you said about David, I love the way he runs the ball, runs it hard, and what he can get hit once, twice, and he's still dragging people beyond. So definitely those 3 are the same as yours. And like you said, I agree with the defense as well. I mean, they're workhorses, our defense is. So
I remember. I know I texted you this. It was David Montgomery's final game at Iowa State. It was a bowl game. I'm not sure who they were playing. Um, and they ranted about him the entire game, how good he is, how whichever team's gonna get him is gonna get a guy that can run over people or just beat them with their moves. And so when I found out the Bears had taken him and what was at the second round they took him, I
yeah,
said,
yeah,
heck yeah, we just got a good running back. Maybe we just trade Jordan
yeah,
Howard to Philadelphia, which I thought was a good move considering what he's not even on a team now.
yeah.
Um, my negatives. Well, I talked about how good the defense is at not allowing points, but you said that we spent a lot of money on our defense. We both agree on that. And the 2
Yep.
biggest contracts would be between Khalil Mack, for good reason, and Robert Quinn. So explains to me that the Bears are 19th in pass rush, 19th in sacks on the season. How's that even possible?
Yeah, I don't under. I think you texted me one day, like maybe Robert. I know Robert was dealing with an injury early on, and I don't know if it's still nagging him or what. But that's been a thing that the Bears have had trouble with, is we've never been able to get that guy that is fearing the offensive line so much that they have to block both Khalil and him. Instead, it's still like, I don't know if it's Robert, like you said, if Robert's dealing with an injury still, but they're still being able to bring 2 guys over to double team Khalil. And that's going to be the issue until either Robert Quinn gets healthy or you can find a guy that actually demands somebody to stay over there so Khalil's not getting double teamed.
Because
And
sometimes
that's been the case.
I felt a lot like this in the last 2 games against very good quarterbacks in Rodgers and Stafford, that they had stood there in the pocket and picked apart our defense because there was no one in their face. And we have good DBs. Johnson and Fuller are good. Buster Screen it's Buster Screen. Let's be honest with ourselves. The guy got cut by the Jets. Danny Trevathan and Roquan, they can only cover these wide receivers for so long.
Yeah.
And that's what we relied on 2 years ago, was the fact that we could rush 4 guys and get to the backfield with no problem.
Yeah.
We forced turnovers that way because they would throw the ball, get hit. Kyle Fuller get an interception, or Eddie Jackson get a pick 6, which he did so many times. Now it just feels like the defense just hopes that they make a mistake.
Yeah. They're holding. I feel like quarterbacks have eons and I really hope that it is Robert Quinn being. You see flashes like during some games he gets off a block fast. I'm like, oh wow, and
Right.
it's like hopefully that stays. But I mean, he's here for 3 more years, so unless we trade him, so I'm hoping it is an injury
I
and
remember
that he can turn into.
I just remember him being that good when he was with the Rams. And what was he on before the Rams? Was he the Cowboys?
Dallas.
Yeah, it was Dallas.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's on Dallas last year.
And he was a monster.
But yeah, yeah. So if he gets back to that form, you're going to be seeing a lot of 2018 stuff again. So
Right. Well, then that's the other thing I want to get back on is the rush defense. It's 17th in the league. How many times have you seen? For years, we suffocated running backs. It wasn't even fair. But
yeah,
I've seen too many running backs run for over 100 yards on us, which I'm not used to.
and I can give you, I think, in my opinion, I can give you the reason why that is this year, and that's one guy who opted out before the season started, and Eddie Goldman. I
Yeah.
think he makes a huge difference. You have him and Hicks on the line. You saw what happened. Like when both of them played together in 2018, that's them together. And if
Right.
they're together in 2021, it'll be the same as 2018 with the run game. But we've had this spells this year to where we haven't had Eddie all of this year, and then Akeem has been out a couple games this year, and then it's just like they can just take advantage of us all they want.
And it was clear as day that we were missing those two guys in that Packer game because they just kept pounding the rock up the middle with Aaron Jones, and the O line was just eating up wherever we put there. And then play action, Rodgers rolls out, throws a dime piece, touchdown Packers. It was consistent, and it
Yeah,
was clear that we needed the nose tackle, and not having Goldman and Hicks there really did hurt. And
yeah.
then,
Eddie's a Pro Bowler. Eddie Goldman
oh yeah,
makes that when you have him and Akeem on that front line, like that's I'm not worried. Like I'd be more worried if Eddie and Akeem were both playing and we were still 17th in the
yeah,
league, but
right. Uh,
that doesn't really concern me that much. So
my last negative, and I think you know where I'm heading with this. It's the O line. The O line. You can't you can't buy the Mercedes unless you get the car insurance. And when the O line is ranked 21st in sacks allowed, that's not
uh,
insurance.
yeah,
That
no,
Mercedes getting dinged up. People are, I don't know. The headlights are gone. The taillights are gone. It's a mess.
yes, I
And that
totally
Mercedes is
agree.
named Nick Foles because Nick Foles got full on WWE body slammed by a Vikings D lineman, and it's been awful. I think
Yeah,
there's especially like when these receivers are getting open, like Anthony Miller and A Rob, but they're not getting the ball because Trubisky and Nick Foles are running for their lives every time.
and that's why I said like after when Foles got hurt, like I was almost ready to switch back to Mitch before he even got hurt. Not even because Foles was playing bad or anything,
No,
but just because I felt like every time I feel like over and over it was 3rd and 5, and all of a sudden Foles was taking a sack. And the only reason I was saying let's switch back to Mitch is because has no chance of getting out of the pocket in the first place. So I was just like, okay, they're going to get back there, so we might as well have a quarterback back there that can scramble as soon as they get back there. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to switch back to Mitch is because I felt like Foles was just like snap the ball sack.
yeah. Well, okay. So I guess I was just so used to having Trubisky at quarterback. I remember it was a game. I think it was the Vikings game. Nick Foles rolls out to his left, and there's an open lane, and he tries to run. And this,
Yeah,
you see a linebacker come from like 7 yards and catch him. I go,
yeah,
oh my! Like I didn't realize how slow he was.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I wanted to switch back to Mitch, just because then he gave us a different dimension on offense. So, but like it doesn't even really matter.
Because we're still at Manchester when this game's going on. I'm sitting in bed and I'm yelling, "Run!" And he starts running. And I go, "Never mind, throw it out of bounds before you get clobbered."
uh,
All right. So one of the big things I asked you to do before heading into here was act like you're the president of football operations. You have control over everything Chicago Bears.
all
So
right,
the first thing you need to do is decide what players we want to keep,
all
and
right.
then so that'll be the first step. And then
So,
players that you may want to get rid of or explore trading or just outright releasing. Just let me know. Everyone's on the table.
all right. So first off, just one quick positive or negative that I wanted to mention as well that I think kind of goes as both a positive because we know what we got out of it and a negative because it didn't work out is the quarterback room. Let's just say that at its best is like a positive. We know that Mitch and Foles aren't the answer, so let's go get something else. But it's also a negative because I backed Mitch for his whole career, but it's just like it just didn't pan out for us. Yeah, it just didn't pan out. And then you obviously know Foles is a backup. That's he's a backup. He's not a starter. So just that. But on to players that I think we need to keep moving forward offensively. These are the names that popped up for me offensively that should be on the Bears next year. Cody Whitehair, James Daniels, Tariq Cohen, Darnell Mooney, David Montgomery, Cole Kmet, Anthony Miller, and Cordero Patterson are the names that I would keep offensively. And then obviously I put a star next to it is I would love to have Allen Robinson back, but if I'm Allen Robinson, I'm like, see you later, unless you make massive changes before you offer me a contract.
We're going to start a movement on this podcast. It's hashtag extend Robinson.
He is a number one receiver, man. I love that guy.
This poor guy, they were showing the list of A-Rob's quarterbacks from all three teams that he's played for, which was Penn State, Jacksonville, and Chicago. I believe the quarterback for Penn State at that time was Hattenberger. I think that's what his name was.
And then who do you have? He had Bortles.
It was Bortles in Jacksonville. He's now a third string quarterback for Denver. And then
yeah.
And then now Trubisky and Foles.
Mitch and Folsey.
This guy should be a Hall of Famer.
You got a little mix of Chase Daniels in there too.
Yeah.
You got a little mix of Chase Daniels too. So, but and then defensively, the guys I would keep before you do yours. I want to hear is defensively. I mean, I think it's majority of the guys. For me, I keep Khalil, Kyle, Akeem, Eddie Goldman, Eddie Jackson. I like Bilal Nichols, but obviously your starters should be Goldman and Hicks. I think you keep Robert Quinn because I don't see an internal fix, and we paid him, so I don't think we should go out and spend any more money on defense. Jalen Johnson, Roquan, and I do think you keep Danny. I don't like I was talking to you before we started this. If we had an internal fix, then yeah. But I don't think we have an internal fix. And then also I looked up his contract. We have 2 more years of him left. I don't think we should just let him walk and have to go sign another linebacker because I think we need to address stuff that's more important in the linebacker position right now. So I'd keep Danny. And the only guy I'd let go defensively is Buster and see if we can find a cheap option for a slot corner, or if we can internally fix slot corner with either Houston Carson or I'm pretty sure Shelley we drafted for a few years ago can play some slot. So if you want to either internally fix that position or go find a cheap option, not spend anything crazy on it. But that's the guys I'd keep, and that's the guys I'd keep offensively and defensively. So I want to hear what yours are, though.
Okay. So first thing I want to look back to A-Rob. I found the quarterback's name is Christian Hackenberg. Pretty sure he was a backup for the Jets there for a bit. That's what his name was. I knew it was like a Hacken something.
Hacken, nice.
First things first, like as we've talked about, any NFL team you start with a good quarterback. You're only as good as your quarterback is, and that's clear for this franchise. I told my mom and my family at the end of the game against Green Bay, I said the Bears are known for 3 things as a franchise from the beginning to end: great defense, great running backs, and just terrible quarterbacks. Let's be honest here. The best quarterback in Bears history was Jim McMahon, who was I'm gonna say it out. I know Bears fans are gonna crucify me, but was mediocre at best.
Yeah, I would like that list when you were going through. I had a list in my head before you said what 3 things Bears are known for, and I was gonna say Ditka, Walter Payton, and defense.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was gonna say.
Exactly. That's what they also the midway.
But 4, yeah, definitely bad quarterbacks. So I would say 4.
Let's be honest. We gave Jay Cutler an extension and thought he was good. That's how bad our quarterbacks have been. So I think that the first thing you need to do is, as you said, I agree 110%. Get rid of Trubisky and Foles, and either whether it be drafting a quarterback. I've ranted about this guy. I love him. It's the quarterback from Florida, Kyle Trask, who in 2 weeks from now is going to be in the SEC championship game against Alabama. So that would be a good time for him to prove I can face these prototypical defenses because, like, most of the time Alabama has like 9 defensive
NFL
players go to the
players.
NFL. So
Yeah.
he's basically an NFL team. And let's be honest here, you have other options going to hit the market. I hate to
Yeah.
say it, but Jameis Winston hitting free
Yeah,
agency.
if we're going in, I have a list of basically, when you said act as if you were the head of the Bears, one of my pages is just full of options and opportunities, and then my next page is what I'd actually do. So I actually have all the free agent quarterbacks next year listed, and it's Dak, Phillip Rivers, Fitzmagic, Cam Newton, and Jameis Winston are all the free agent quarterbacks next year. So if that would be the route the Bears would want to go, which I do not recommend, those are the guys that they could go for.
I'm going to toss this out there for you too. There's 2 young quarterbacks out that have a lot of potential, but they haven't been in the right system. The first one, I'm going to list the second one I would like, and then the first one I would like to get.
Let me try to guess them before you say them.
All right, who's my number 2? Who's the second guy you think the Bears should trade for?
The second, I have a feeling I know the first.
All right, give me number 1 then. Who do you think?
Is it Sam Darnold?
It's Sam Darnold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold's my number 1
because he's going to be their backup, or because they're drafting Trevor. So
I hope Trevor Lawrence looks good in jet green. I don't know if that long blonde hair is going to blend good with those jet green jerseys.
I'm trying to think of the second one. You're going to have to tell.
I'll give you a hint. He broke Drew Brees' passing touchdowns record in his senior year of college. It was a Big Ten record.
And he's what, for trade?
He started for this team to begin the year, and then they demoted him not to second string, but all the way down to third string.
You're gonna have to tell me. My brain's drawing a blank.
Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, really?
He had like a career game. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Career game. I don't remember who we were playing. It doesn't matter because it's the Washington football team. If you don't have a real nickname, then you don't warrant me to remember your games. He had a career game against his team, and then Ron Rivera comes up to him and says, "Hey, I'm putting you down in the depth chart." And Dwayne's like, "All right." He goes, "I don't think you understand. I'm putting you at third string behind Alex Smith and Kyle Allen."
Did he give any reasoning or at all? Or was
I have
he
not
just playing
heard
that bad? Like, 'cause you said, I didn't really watch many.
He wasn't playing that bad. He's okay.
So let's say, before we go into the whole, because I want to hear your whole pitch to me of what you would do step by step. But just a simple question: Dwayne Haskins is available for the Bears. First off, would you make him the starting quarterback? And what do you think it would take to trade for him?
Considering the fact that the Redskins the football team doesn't even play them, it had to be like a mid-round pick.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm wasting a first-round pick on this guy. There's no way.
No.
If he's a third-string quarterback for a team that's below 500 and will only make the playoffs because the NFC least is the worst division in football, then why would I waste a first or second round on him? And he's going to want to leave at this point. It was disrespectful for him, especially. Yeah. It's like doing a good job on a project and your teacher saying, "Oh, you got an F because I think you could have done better." All right. Well, was it like A work then? I don't know.
So would you put all your stock
No.
Would he be? Don't tell me what your number one option is, but would he be like, if you were the Bears, would you be like, all right, we're going all in on Haskins and he's going to be our starter next year?
Yeah.
You would.
Here's why. I'll give you the perfect reason why. In my mind, go get Dwayne and test him out. If he does, just kick the tires. Be like, all right, well, what does Washington want for him? If it's like a fifth-round pick, then go, all right, well, we can do that. And just try him out. And if he does good, then you look like a genius. If not, you have Kyle Trask playing behind you. getting ready to get in there. It's kind of like what the
Oh,
Bears
you're saying draft.
trade for a
You're still
quarterback
saying
and then
draft.
draft a quarterback. Because if it doesn't work out with Dwayne and the Bears are still terrible and our guys are getting up there in age, then build around Dwayne. Build around Trask.
See, if I went the trade route for a quarterback, Darnold is the guy that popped into my head right away. So
Right.
let's say I don't want to fix the Bears quarterback problem through free agency. I don't want to fix it through the draft. I want to fix it through trade. I trade for Sam Darnold, and the reason I trade for Sam Darnold is because he showed me something, and also because now I can use my first round pick on an O lineman.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I were going to trade or sign, then your first round pick better be an O lineman. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, and as we said, there's other. I could even see. I'm not sure, but this guy went to the Raiders, Marcus Mariota. I don't know what his contract looks like. They could explore him possibly coming to the team,
Yeah.
because he didn't do bad in Tennessee. I just don't think he fit the system as well as Ryan
Yeah.
Tannehill does with this team, because they're very run heavy than play action, and Marcus
Yeah.
Mariota is not like that. There's a lot of options to explore. And I would agree wholeheartedly that if we do go the trade route, then go get Darnold. Because Sam Darnold's a good quarterback. If you remember that draft, they had, what was it, the 5 first-round quarterbacks, the first time it ever happened.
I remember that statement. He said, I'm going to be the best in this draft, didn't he? He was the one oh, no, that was Rosen who said that. My fault.
Yeah, because
Rosen
didn't want to go to a bad team. I think it was the Browns. He didn't want to go first. They ended up going to the Cardinals and then getting traded to Miami because Arizona got Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
but
I don't even know where Rosen is.
He's on the practice squad for Tampa Bay.
Really?
I swear. Because they went out and got, and then it's just he got put in bad situations, and I think that him being a backup to Brady on the practice squad can kind of reboot his career again. Because you go to Arizona drafts Kyler Murray. You go to Miami drafts Tua Tagovailoa. It's just a bad situation. But if you remember that was the year with 5 quarterbacks: Baker, Sam, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and then Lamar Jackson. Everyone thought that Sam Darnold was going to go first to Cleveland. Everyone thought that coming out of USC. I'm not sure what happened between then and then the draft where the Browns were all in on Baker. But Sam Darnold has literally no one to throw to this year. His best receiver, Robbie Anderson, went to Carolina, which I thought heading into the year I'm like, Carolina just got the most underrated signee of the year. And the numbers prove it. He looked really good. And Carolina's going to come back to play later when we get further into the podcast. And just remind me to say something about that.
Okay.
In other words, extend A-Rob. Jimmy Graham, I know what we got him for 2 years. So we get one more year after this. I just keep him. And because I think him and Kmet are really close, because I know Jimmy Graham was really excited when Kmet scored his first touchdown. So I think that's more of a mentor-student thing. And, Jimmy Graham is still a good tight end. He's just older now. He's gotten beat up when he was with New Orleans, Seattle, and Green Bay. I think he can teach Kmet a lot of things off the field and like practices and stuff. It's good to have that mentor around. Other than that, I like our receiving core. I just don't feel like they get the opportunities to really prove themselves. Keep Whitehair. You keep Daniels. Get rid of Charles Leno. Oh my Lord, he's the worst left tackle in the game. I'm not exaggerating. I know
I'm just laughing because I just think of him. As soon as you say his name, I just think of him getting plowed over onto his ass and just sitting there.
That's how he is. And the defense, I cannot stand Buster Screen anymore.
No.
At the Packers game, whenever Devontae Adams broke the huddle and I saw Buster Screen going with them, I said, "Well, we're in trouble."
I can't tell you how many times I yelled. I can't tell you how many times I yelled to my dad, like, "Kyle, I know you're a cornerback, but like, Pagano, our best needs to be on their best, or else we're going to be. Buster's not going to be able to cover Devontae."
And he didn't. You're kind of breaking up right here. I can't really hear you as good, but I'm gonna keep talking until you come back.
Yeah.
Uh, if like
No, you're good. You're good.
I would just go. They're going to go to Devontae every time. They're just going to do a play action and go to Devontae Adams, and that's what they did almost every time. And why aren't we putting our best DB on Devontae? And I think that's what you're trying to get at before you start breaking up. Was move Kyle Fuller to wherever he's going, or go with Johnson. Anyone but screen. That's all I said.
Yes.
Because Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the NFC North. You could argue and Thielen, but other than that, it's him. It's Devontae, and he was carving up our defense as he always does because he lines up against our worst DB
Yeah.
and he carves them up. It's simple. You can't put a linebacker
Yep.
on him because he's too quick, and you can't put Buster Screen on him because he's too small.
Yeah. So Kyle should have been on him.
Yeah.
But
So I'd get rid of Screen.
Buster should be gone. Yeah.
I would try and see what wrong with the Robert Quinn experiment. Be like, okay, were you playing injured? Because I know Khalil Mack played last year injured, and he was not effective as he usually is. And I think you and I could tell because I know, remember you and I always would run in the hallway and go, what's wrong with Khalil? And then when that
Yeah.
came out that he was injured, it was okay. That makes more sense that he wasn't playing the 100%. I think
Yeah.
maybe that's what happened with
Absolutely.
Robert Quinn. I
I
feel as
hope
though
so.
if we come back next year, the Bears would have the best 4 down linemen in the game. Akeem, Eddie, Khalil, and Robert. And if
Which
Robert
is what we thought we were coming into this year.
exactly, but Goldman opted out because of COVID, and then Robert Quinn, we'll just chalk it up that he's playing injured. We'll say that for now and leave it at that.
And even when Eddie Goldman comes back healthy and you have him, Akeem, and Khalil all on that side, I think that even will open up for Robert.
Exactly.
Like it'll be a problem for teams. So I agree with you on that aspect of having the 4 best down linemen in the NFL. I totally agree.
Other than that, I like Houston. I like Houston. What's his last name? Houston.
Houston Carson.
Houston Carson. I like. I don't want to butcher his last name because he deserves my respect for picking off Tom Brady to win that Thursday night game a couple
Yeah.
months ago. He's good. I don't know why he doesn't get
Yeah.
more snaps than what he does.
He's physical. Um, I like him a lot more than Buster, but they love Buster, so
I don't. I remember when we signed him from the Jets, everyone was talking about how excited they were to get him, and I said, "Who even is this guy? The fact that he's not back on the Jets should tell you that he's not good."
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to go on to how we would fix this team or what?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right. All right. So, I guess I'll start with giving you what I view as options or opportunities to me if I was sitting in as the head. So, like if I was sitting as a head, I'd sit down and want to look at all my options first. So, first I look at free agents, and so I went through the top 50 free agents in the NFL for 2021, and some of the names that popped out to me were first off wide receiver number 1 wide receivers if Allen leaves. Some of the names that popped up for me were Will Fuller, Chris Godwin, and Kenny Galladay. And then, I mean, he's a free agent next year, but I don't know how much he's going to get paid. But Juju's a free agent also next year. Then the rest of the free agent list that popped out to me is no other than just a bunch of O linemen. Trent Williams, Taylor Morton, names like that. Just a bunch of basically there's some good O linemen in the top 50 that are free agents if you wanted to maybe fill one of your offensive line needs through free agents. But then, like I said, for the free agent quarterback list, which I went through, Dak, Phillip, Fitzmagic, Cam, and Jameis are options for quarterback if I wanted to fill it through free agency. And then your draft to fix the team. The Bears are presented with 7 total picks, barring a trade. That's with 1 first rounder, a second rounder, a third rounder, a fifth rounder, 2 sixth rounders, and a 7th rounder next year. And I think for me, we talked about drafting a quarterback. One of the names we already talked about that's on here for me, it comes down to 4 guys. for me is Zach Wilson from BYU, Trey Lance, Kyle Trask, and Mac Jones are four that I think will be available to us wherever we're at in the first round. Obviously, Fields and Lawrence are in quarterbacks in the draft, but those are
Yeah,
obviously out of
they're
question.
good as gone if you're not
Yeah,
inside the top 3.
yeah, exactly. And then there's a bunch of O linemen in the draft as well. So those are the option. I listed some of the names for O linemen, but I mean there are a lot. Those are the options that I have if I was sitting there, and then I nailed it down to what I would exactly do if I were the in charge of the Chicago Bears. And I nailed it down to this. What I would actually do is first off, new coaching staff, Nagy and all Nagy and the coach. It'd be a new coaching staff, just plain and simple. Secondly, I'd try like hell to re-sign Allen Robinson. I'd say whatever I could to keep him here. Give him, he would be my number one priority first. After showing him, I think the only way you get him to stay is if you show him we're serious about changing the team.
Right.
So, hey, Nagy's gone. This offense is gone. We're trying to change everything. Tell him our plans for the rest of the offseason. Try to keep him. Then third is free agency. So free agency hits next, and if A-Rob's gone, I would go and get Will Fuller for my because I think you need I don't think we have an in-house number one wide receiver right now.
Going with the Irish player,
I
I
think
see.
we have a tune. Yeah, yeah. So I would go get Will Fuller if we couldn't keep A-Rob, and then if we could, if we had the money to, and we got A-Rob, if we were able to, it's just a wish list. But if we were able to, I'd love to pair Kenny Galladay with him. He's a free agent this year. If we were able to, I don't know how much Galladay would go for and how much we'd sign A-Rob for. But that's just wishful thinking. If we could get A-Rob back, I would then try to add Kenny Galladay. If not, then you have A-Rob, Anthony Miller, Darnell Mooney, and the normal cast that you have. But I think they'd be better with what I'm going to say next. So Will Fuller, if no A-Rob, and then try to add Kenny Galladay. If not, we have A-Rob. And then I'd re-sign Tashawn Gibson. He's a free agent this year.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to go out and try to find another strong safety again. I like the job he did this year. I'd go out and sign him again. We have no in-house fixes. I didn't see any names that popped off the charts for me or opened my eyes a lot. And if they did, they'd be a lot of money, and I think we should spend our money elsewhere. And I think we could get Tayshaun for pretty cheap, so I'd sign him back again in free agency.
Yeah, but this is the third year in a row we've had a different strong safety.
Yeah,
because it was Amos.
Well.
It was Amos,
Yeah.
then Clinton Dix, and now it's Gibson. And Gibson's been doing a pretty good job.
I like the way I think last year we struggled a lot because wasn't as physical as Amos was. And
right.
I think we got that back this year with Tashaun Gibson as our strong safety again. So I'd sign him back to another contract. And then fourth is the draft. And this is where I think everything comes into like basically the only thing I did on defense was an in-house fix with Buster Screen and re-signed Tashaun. So I think for me, everything stays the same besides a few positions on offense. The first thing I do in the first round of the NFL draft, wherever the Bears are, I have two quarterbacks listed. I'm fine with either or. I wouldn't be mad if either of these names got called on draft day, and that's either Zach Wilson or Kyle Trask. I was doing a lot of research on Zach Wilson for a while, and then you mentioned Kyle Trask to me, and I've been watching his stuff lately too. So I like the kid a lot from stuff that I've looked at. So I'd be happy with either of those names. And then I have listed for our second round, third, fifth, sixth, and sixth pick. For the next 5 picks, we better pick all O-linemen for the 5 picks in a row. Like,
exactly.
No exaggeration. You better pick 5 straight O-linemen. And then even if you wanted to, with our last 7th round pick a 6th, but I just said best available offensive player with our 7th round pick. We've drafted defensive players the last few years. I think if you think you're set with the lineman, then with that last pick, go get whatever the best available offensive player is, whether that's a slot wide receiver or wide receiver or even another running back. I don't care what it is. Just go get something for the offense. But yeah, so the first, you better basically in the draft, you fix your offense by, like you said, what drives an offense is a line and a good quarterback. So go get your quarterback and draft a lineman. And then on the last page, I just have what my 2021 lineup would look like officially, and that's my quarterback number 1 would be Wilson or Trask. Quarterback number 2, you keep Foles as a good backup. It's a good option to have as a good backup in case one of those two get hurt. So you have your quarterback number 1 is Wilson or Trask, and then your running back David Montgomery with a mix of Patterson and Tariq. Then your wide receiver 1 is hopefully Allen Robinson. If not, it's Will Fuller. Wide receiver 2 for me, if I can spend the money, it's Kenny Galladay. Wide receiver 3, Darnell Mooney. Tight end, you got Kmet and Graham. And then your O lineman is James Daniel, Whitehair, and then your 3 new draftees that go on that O line, whoever they are. And then defense, pretty much basically the same of what we had. Free safety Eddie, strong safety Tashawn, cornerbacks Kyle and Jalen. Your slot cornerback, either an in-house fix, like we said, Houston Carson, or a very, very cheap option. Do not go out and spend a lot of money on that. And then linebackers, Danny and Roquan. And then your front line, Khalil, Robert, Hicks, and Goldman. And I truly believe, with my gut, with the new coaching staff and that offense and that defense, I truly believe that is not only a playoff team, but a division winner, just like in 2018 again.
All right, so the question I'm going to ask you is, you want to clear house. I'm not going to ask you about coordinators because that's just being pessimistic. But what head coach would you want the Bears to get? 'Cause I have one in mind. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
So one of the the only reason I wouldn't go this route is just because of what happened with Nagy in Kansas City. But the offensive coordinator for Kansas City is a guy who comes to mind for me. But a guy who I think, I don't know how it would be perceived as from Bears fans, but I wouldn't mind it. I liked him when he was a coach in the NFL. Is Harbaugh with Michigan?
Yeah, they did not have a good year this year, and it looks as though he's either going to be getting an extension with Michigan or he'll be looking for another job.
Yeah, so I think that would be I wouldn't be mad at that either. So Harbaugh or the guy from Kansas, the offensive coordinator for Kansas City, I can't remember his name right now, but the only reason that would scare me is because of what happened with Nagy. But
right.
I just don't think Pace gave Nagy the offensive weapons. Well, Mitch just wasn't the quarterback to fit that.
Yeah, it wasn't that second overall pick like we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, and he didn't have an O-line, so.
Yeah, and we've been
it's
saying
totally
about
different.
We've been
totally
saying about
different if
we've been
Nagy's
saying about we've been saying about Bears teams for forever. I remember that with Jay Cutler not having an O-line.
Yeah, it's totally different if I feel Nagy's offense definitely works if Mahomes is the quarterback. So obviously, but yeah. So that would be. I definitely think. I mean, I think that would be a team that would make the playoffs.
Right.
For sure. I have a feeling so. But I want to hear what you would do. So.
All right. So I just watched this season fall apart. I'm gonna head to my office at Soldier Field and sit down. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna go. Okay, what went wrong? Well, first things first, Matt Nagy, you gone. I would not want Chuck Pagano back. The way this defense has been performing under him the last 2 weeks, no. This one may show. I want Bill Lazor back, and here's why. Bill Lazor has actually been calling some really good plays. I like his play calls. I like how he plays to the strength of his quarterback. That's what he did with Trubisky. My favorite play by far from that game was the play action, roll it to the left, drop off to Kmet. Kmet goes to the end zone, scores a touchdown. Simple. The offense needs to be quick and simple, you know?
They did the play. You know what they did on that play too? They broke out of the huddle and sprinted to the line. That
Exactly.
was that play. Yeah.
But other times with Nagy, it feels very slow. And the
Hmm.
plays take so long to develop. Late, I think what Nagy lost between 2017 and 2018 was the idea of playing to the strengths of my players instead of, oh, this is the offense I ran in Kansas City. It's going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. He had Alex Smith the entire time he was the coach, because when he left, that's when Pat Mahomes took over. Alex Smith is not Mitch Trubisky. Mitch
No.
Trubisky isn't Alex Smith. Alex Smith is a pocket passer. Mitch Trubisky is never a pocket passer. He's a guy that's
No.
good on the run. So draw up
Yep.
some rollout plays, see if that works, So I like Laser a lot. I want to
Okay.
keep him,
I
see if
got
he
a
can do
quick
anything.
question for you.
Okay.
You said you get rid of Pagano. Do you have any names off the top of your head, defensive wise, or
I
you would
I
just get
think
rid of Pagano?
I would just get rid of Pagano, and then I would explore some of these really good defensive teams, like the Steelers defensive coordinator. He's done a fantastic job. The Steelers defense has been amazing this year, and explore some other teams that have good defenses and see if they'd be interested in coming to Chicago. Uh,
Gotcha.
so, but there's a couple of guys I would want as my head coach, and at the very top of my list, very top, I could care less if the Bears explore any others. And I've told you this name, Joe Brady. And I know you don't follow college football as much as I do, but Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator for LSU last year when Joe Burrow was breaking all these records.
Mhm.
LSU had the best offense, in my opinion. Joe Burrow had the best college season ever, and I'm underlining ever because he broke every record you could think of. And then went 15-0, won a national championship. So I think, and then
Yeah.
he hasn't done a bad job with Carolina this year. Carolina has Teddy Bridgewater as quarterback, and they won a game with P.J. Walker, who was a guy that started in the XFL for what was it, the Houston Roughnecks. I know you watched them for a little bit. Was that their name, the Houston Roughnecks?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he won a game with that. So and remember Mike Davis? He was on the Bears, didn't do all that great.
Yeah.
He was running the heck out of the rock when he got to Carolina. Look, remember
Yeah. And what
that's all
people
they
use
talked
him.
about.
Nagy didn't want to use. Nagy didn't. He didn't fit in the Nagy system.
No,
But look at him now when you just run the rock.
because that's all I remember them talking about was how Davis was running the ball really well before that Bears game, and how he was a Chicago Bear, and that's why they wanted a revenge game.
Yeah.
Other ones, I really like the offensive coordinator from Baltimore. I'm not sure what his name is, but they were talking about him last night, and let's remember that 2 years ago, he made Lamar Jackson an MVP quarterback. A
Yeah.
32nd overall pick was the MVP of the league last year.
Yeah.
And it was the first time ever that an offense had averaged 200 passing yards and 200 rushing yards. And that's what I really like about him is that he wants to keep that nice balanced attack in a passing league. Don't get rid of the run. Keep running the ball. That's where football came from, and that's what makes teams successful.
Yep.
And those are my two. And you said the offense coordinator from Kansas City. We'd have to see about that one because, again, there's some red flags because of what Nagy has been for the Bears.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Uh, and this is funny because you talked about how we didn't tell, like we knew the topics, but we didn't know who was going to be where. In my players to keep, I have Robinson, and right underneath it is Foles because if you're going to pay him money, then why waste him going to another team in free agency? Like instead of cutting them and taking on that contract, I'd say keep him,
Yeah.
be a mentor. That's what he was for Carson Wentz in Philly, and it worked out for him. He got a ring on his finger.
Yep.
And I wrote this down at the very bottom. Have you ever seen the movie Draft Day?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming you have since your dad's a Browns fan and it's the GM of the
Yep.
Browns. I put Kyle Trask at all costs with costs underlined. I love this. I love this kid, and I'm not dissing on Wilson, but there's just a glamour to a quarterback coming from the SEC than the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah.
I've never felt the same about the Mountain West Conference after the Cleveland Cavaliers drafted Anthony Bennett from UNLV. Never had the same passion for that conference. But Kyle Trask has torn up some really good teams. He had a breakout game against Georgia. He had nearly 500 yards that game. I think he's not a quarterback that runs a lot. He's a pocket passer, and he can run, but he likes not to because he understands that at what point are you just a running back that can throw? You know,
Yeah.
that's what I want in a quarterback is one that can throw the ball, but only runs when he needs to and feels the pocket collapsing around him. And if you're the Bears quarterback, you're going to know what that feels like a lot.
Yeah.
I also agree with everything else you said about going out and getting offensive linemen because I think Whitehair and Daniels can be like captains, co-captains of the whole line, and teach these guys blocking schemes. And if we get the right guys in the right places and setting up for success, then we don't have to worry about our line anymore. Especially if we
No.
have the right players and the right play calls. I don't know why we always go for the deep ball. I remember this when Trubisky did the play action, rolled out, and then threw a deep ball against Green Bay in the double coverage and got picked off. And Nagy was like, "Oh, that was the design of the play." So you told Trubisky to force it into double coverage on a deep one because you wanted to
Yeah.
die one up? How about
Yeah.
just get the ball to our playmakers in
Exactly.
Montgomery? I get you can't say Tariq this year because he's been injured, but like Cordell Patterson, Darnell Mooney, A. Rob, Anthony Miller, Komet, just do like quick passes. 5 yards is good enough. You get 2 5-yard passing plays completed, you have a first down, and
Yeah.
that's why I told you that some of the best quarterbacks relied on that. And I'll give you 2 names right off the top of my head that relied on the quick pass games and very successful because of it. Joe Montana and Tom Brady, two of the goats of quarterbacks,
Yeah.
were not known for the deep ball because they knew they're like, well, why throw the deep ball every time and have it be incomplete because I only complete like 30% of them? Or should I just go for the quick passes, which I complete 70% of them and get first downs and just go down the field, score a touchdown, and let my defense relax?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I the only like the only thing I that's why I asked you about Trask was is he mobile is because I just worry if Pace doesn't draft and put a bunch of stock into our O line that he gets murked
Right.
like right off the bat.
Well,
But
that's why I would want to keep Foles now as a backup because I always heavily agreed on if you draft a quarterback, he shouldn't be starting immediately under the new system,
yeah,
especially with your O line not being as secure as it should be. Let's take a prime example of one that happened a couple weeks ago. Joe Burrow has the worst O line in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals. Where is he at right now? Recovering from an ACL injury and one of the gruesomest I've seen. That
yeah,
thing was nasty. And some quarterbacks never come back from that the same. I would say that Trask is mobile because most college quarterbacks are nowadays. Some more than
yeah,
others, like Justin Fields from Ohio State's very mobile, while Trevor Lawrence
yeah.
is not as much, but he can run if he needs to.
Yeah, that's all. As long as he's not Foles, as long as he can like get a 5 yard gain if I need it, that's what I like to
I
have.
I would pay to watch Akeem Hicks and Nick Foles race. I'd pay for it.
uh,
Another thing is looking into the defense, and I'm going, all right, well, Houston Carson, I'm going to give you a shot because you've been here longer. I'll give you a shot to be the slot corner because I'm going to get rid of Buster because Buster's not just cutting it.
yeah,
But I'm going to go out and I may sign or draft another one somewhere in the 5th or 6th round since we have 3 picks in those 2 rounds
hmm
and going, hey, if you don't do good, this guy's going to replace you and create that competition. Because I feel like
yeah,
Houston Carson has been such in a long competition with Screen that might be like, okay, my hard work's finally paying off. Let's not blow it now. Let's go out there and play
yeah,
physical, good defense at that position. And
yeah,
other than that, I think we should reshape a lot of our coaching positions, except for maybe offensive coordinator. But yeah, Joe Brady would be my guy. If I were to make an agenda and I had 3 things to the like this end all be all, it's Trask, Brady, and a new slot corner.
you put a new slot corner over O lineman.
Oh well, yeah, I forgot about O lineman. Yeah, you know what? Let me rephrase that. O-line, Trask, Brady. That would be my big
There,
three.
that sounds. I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah,
Totally
that
on
makes more
board with.
sense now. I forget that the O-line exists.
And they don't. They really don't.
I mean, I think Nick Foles would agree with you. Him and his hip would agree that the Bears O-line doesn't exist like other uh
Other
like
than white hair.
like other scorers on the Lakers when Kobe was playing. They just don't really exist.
Yeah. I I got a question for you now. So after we both figured out what we would do to fix the Bears and what I think, like just those three main things. If you make a O lineman Trask and a new head coach in Brady or whoever happen, I think that's a playoff team. So let's say we created a playoff team. How likely do you think it is that the McCaskies and Pace make what we or make any changes at all? What do you think is the probability? And if you were to put some money down, what do you think the chances are that the Bears actually do make some changes or go into next season with the same old crap?
So you're talking about like in real life, like if the Bears don't do what we're like, are you saying like,
What do you think the Bears do? What do you think the Bears roll out to us fans in 2021?
well, let's be honest with ourselves, the Bears have never been hesitant to fire head coaches. How okay, let's take here's a stat for you. Here's a straight fact as a Bears fan, we know this. When Lovey got fired that last year after he won what was it like 10 games, we won 10 games, but didn't make the playoffs. I think we fell just short because Rodgers beat us in the division. We then go to a guy named Mark Trestman, just came from Canada, and then we fired him immediately. Go okay, well maybe it's not a good idea to hire him. Then we go to an overrated John Fox. Like, okay, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, but the Bears are in a rebuild. So what's the point of hiring a guy that's been to 2 Super Bowls when we don't even have a quarterback? We fired him. Okay, now we have Matt Nagy, and Matt Nagy had 2 bad years after one great year.
We thought we
And
had the savior, man.
we thought I defended him for the past 2 years after the one bad year. Like, oh, it's because we don't have an O line. It's not his fault that Pace didn't go out and get the guys we need.
Dude, I was all when after that season, I was like, even after that playoff game, I was like, if we had a kicker, I think we go to the Super Bowl. I still think to this day we do.
I did my first podcast ever on a preview of that year's playoffs, and my Super Bowl prediction for the NFC was the Chicago Bears. I said they can run the ball, they can play defense, and I said I think that's what wins it all. Is defense wins championships. Little did
And
I
I
know.
said, and I said Mitch.
What did you say about Mitch?
I was gonna say in Mitch after the playoff after that final drive against the Eagles, I was like, he balled up and like he nutted up and made some big throws against the Eagles.
He
And I
did.
was like, hey, maybe that's all he needed to get his confidence going, and we're gonna see it. And he had MVP. But do you remember he had like some MVP? He had like
He went
he
to
was
the
on the
Pro
board for
Bowl.
MVP on.
He went to the Pro Bowl that year.
Yeah, and then he was on the odds. He had odds to actually be an MVP in 2019.
If I remember
And
correctly, he replaced Goff that year because that was the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl, and he replaced him on the NFC team.
yeah, and then he obviously it just all went to crap.
Well, it didn't help that he was getting hit a lot, and we couldn't run the ball
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah,
I don't. It just a lot of things were going on at once these past 2 years. So it's not fair to point the finger at just Trubisky and Nagy.
no.
You know, there's a lot more going on, and here's one thing. I know this is not related to like franchise moves and stuff, but would you ever think that the Bears could leave Soldier Field?
What do you mean? Like the new stadium?
Yeah, because here's why. I had to do a project for a class on uh on a facility, and me being me, I picked Soldier Field because I thought maybe the Bears would be doing good at this point. Um, and I'm looking at these numbers, Joe. Did you know the Bears have the smallest football stadium in any NFL team?
Really?
It only
Like
sits,
seats,
yeah,
seat wise, or just
only
like
sits 61,000 people. That's it.
wow.
To give you an idea on how bad that is, Dallas can sit up to 100,000 if they put extended seats, but they only sit around 80,000 a game. But I think Sophie is now the largest, and Sophie sits around a lot. I'm not sure how much that one does, but the Bears still make 12th in the NFL in revenue with such a small stadium. I think that's what the issue may be coming from, is the fact that we are not cashing in onto the Bears brand. I'll give you an example. Okay, I know you're not gonna like this one, but the Cubs. Okay, the first thing they did before they went out and got the best players to win the World Series was they started rebuilding Wrigley, trying to promote this Cubs brand of this is home. We're going to do whatever we can to build it up so we can make revenue through that, so we can pay for these good players. The Bears can't do that.
No.
Not with 61,000. And let's be honest here. You're really going to tell me that the Jaguars deserve a bigger stadium than the Bears?
Yeah. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
You could put the Chicago Bears in the top 5 best fan bases in the NFL.
Easily.
Yeah, easy. Easily. You could argue Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Philadelphia, Dallas, and we'll put the Bears fifth. We'll put the Bears fifth because those are really good franchises that have solid fan bases. But at what point do we say we need money? Let's rebuild a stadium or go get a new one, you know?
Yeah.
You need that revenue. You need that money if we want to go out and get star players.
Yeah. So, rounding back to it, what do you think they do? What do you think they roll out to us fans?
I think they'll fire Nagy. Easy. He's gone. I think they'll fire Pagano. I think that one's more of an if chance. I think the Trubisky experiment's done. We didn't pick up his option. He'll be a free agent. He'll probably go sign with like the Jaguars or a team that he can compete with at the starting position, or at least learn. Maybe he'll go like the New Orleans and do what Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston done for the past couple of years. I think they keep Foles for some reason. I see them keeping Foles for some known reason.
I don't think he's not the starter. There's no
shot. They don't extend A-Rob because I can see the Bears doing something like that. And the reason why
I think we'll throw money at him.
Yeah,
but I don't think A-Rob will stay with us.
I have two great examples on why they won't, because the Bears have this long history of not wanting to re-sign wide receivers. First one being Brandon Marshall, traded him to the Jets for basically nothing, and then he went out and had a Pro Bowl year, I believe, with Fitzmagic. And then Alshon Jeffrey went and signed a big contract with Philly.
Yeah.
Which he's not the wide receiver he used to be, but he was a cornerstone in that Super Bowl team for the Eagles.
Hey, you know what? You want to hear something that'll make our stomachs turn that I could see happening?
A-Rob going to the Packers
and teaming up with Devontae.
Yeah, because
I would hate that so much.
I didn't really know Amos as much, but when he signed with the Packers, it's just the fact that this guy is leaving the Bears and joining the Packers is just it's like a kick to the face.
Yeah, like, okay, and I can see it happening. I can see it happening.
That's
A-Rob finally gets a good quarterback to throw to him.
I think that's gonna be the biggest thing. I think the Bears would throw money at Robinson, but why would? Okay, so let's imagine this: you're Allen Robinson. You've played through Hackenberg. You've played through Bortles. You played through Trubisky and Foles. At what point do you go, maybe I should go somewhere else and have like a career year, sign a 1-year deal with this team, and then go get a big contract somewhere else?
Yeah.
You know,
that's why I don't think it's because the Bears won't offer him. I think it's because he doesn't want to put up with shit anymore.
Exactly.
I guarantee it.
Unless A-Rob's like, oh, you know what? Let's go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Let's go to Kansas City.
Yeah. I think the best shot of us keeping A-Rob is if we show him you have to make changes before he leaves.
Yeah.
If
we don't go into the Week 17 game against Green Bay with Matt Nagy crying and giving a speech about how this is going to be his last game as head coach, I'd cry because he's going to be I wouldn't know if he's going to be fired or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it pains me to say, but I have a gut feeling what I think they're going to do. What I think the Bears will roll out to us in 2021 is I have a gut feeling that the coaching staff will be back. I have a feeling that Nagy's going to be the coach next year. Nick Foles will be a backup quarterback, but we brought this name up earlier. The Bears will trade for Sam Darnold. I just have a gut feeling that we'll trade for him. I don't. I've seen reports of us like heavily looking at Trask, but I just have a gut feeling that we'll be like, okay, well, Darnold's been in the NFL, so he has experience, and we need to win now. So we're gonna trade for him.
Okay, so here
and we'll trade for Darnold. We'll draft some O linemen. We'll draft O linemen with the rest of the same. That's what I think they'll roll out to us.
Okay, let's get a little crazy here. Let's say that a Joe Henschel from 2025 comes back to you from the future, and you ask him, "What did they do with the Bears?" What would be the one thing you would want him to tell you? Like he says, "I can only tell you one thing about the Bears. That's it." What's the one like? And you want something good. What's the one thing you hope for him to say besides Super Bowl?
Just a combination of two things. Going out of the 2020 season, the Bears decided to tank the rest of the games, got a higher draft. They came out and told the fans, like, we're going to look towards next year. We're going to round up this season, get a higher – they're not going to actually say that, but word it to us to where that I'm rooting for the Bears to lose these last few games.
Yeah.
So the Bears tanked to get a high draft pick and fired Nagy. That's what I'd want to hear from future Joe is the Bears got a high draft pick and Nagy was fired. And then I would be like, okay, well, at least Joe knows going into 2021 that Nagy's fired and we have a chance of getting a good a quarterback, or the hopeful answer to all the Bears quarterback woes that we've had.
Well, and then here's the scary part about us taking the rest of our games is our next game is against Houston, which the Bears pretty much beat them in every category besides quarterback. We got Minnesota, which we almost beat Minnesota with Nick Foles, and Dalvin Cook's been battling injuries since then. We got Jacksonville, who at this rate is going to get the second overall pick, and they're only one Jets win away from being tied for the first overall pick. And then we end up the year with Green Bay.
I can see us winning 3 out of 4.
Exactly. That's the scary part is, okay, so I remember this when I became a basketball fan was who's the Sacramento Kings. They were always that team that was always like they weren't bad, but they weren't good. They were just okay.
Yeah.
And then they consistently took bad draft picks after bad draft pick. And it was just sitting there thinking, okay, at what point do you just completely tank the season? And if the Bears just keep sitting at 8-8 or 7-9 and 9-7 and getting these like mid first round picks, it's going to get more irritating because these guys aren't as good as Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. You know, that's the issue is you can't sit at 500 forever and expect to win a championship.
Yeah. What pick? Curiosity. What pick do you think Trask will go? What pick do you think we'll have to be able to take him?
Okay, so let's look at – I'm going to take a quick look at what teams are – the only other team that I'd be concerned about taking him is Vegas because I'm not sure how they feel about bringing back Derek Carr again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a quick look. I know the Chargers are on there, and the Chargers ain't going to draft a quarterback because –
No.
Okay, so you have the Jets, Jags – Bengals, Chargers, Cowboys, Eagles, Panthers, Falcons, and Dolphins. The Bears would be at the 13th pick, and as of right now, they're projecting the Bears, to take Mac Jones from Alabama.
That's from Alabama. Yeah.
I'm not seeing Trask in the top 13. I wonder where he'd fall to. Or
Where'd
when
that Wilson kid go?
it says he went ninth to Atlanta.
Yeah,
This
dude.
is this is NFL on CBS. I'm sorry, eighth to Atlanta.
I like that Wilson kid. That's why I said I'd be happy with Trask or Wilson.
See, that scary part is if Trask continues to fall, there are some good teams that have like some veteran quarterbacks that are towards the end of their career down there, and he could be
Mhm.
a really good replacement for one of these teams. Like I saw Pittsburgh and New Orleans; those are the two teams I'd be scared of, or even the Colts, because
Yeah,
the
but
Colts have
we'd be ahead of them.
right.
So
But if Trask
would
continues to
you?
fall, that would be the issue. If he like
Uh,
went to a really good team and then tore it up, and then we'd have the same Pat Mahomes, Deshaun Watson situation that we've been hearing for a couple years now.
yeah. Um. So what just to finish up things. Um. What in your gut? What do you think the Bears finish this season?
All right. So I could see them beating Houston. So that would move them what would their record be at that point?
Six and
Are they
seven.
6-7? They're 5-7 right now.
Yep.
So 6-7. Let's say they lose to the Vikings. I can see them finishing 7-9.
Okay.
7-9 would
See,
be by end all be all.
that's what would be good for us draft wise, I think.
Yeah.
Um. But then, like, I mean, I sit here and say that I think we could go 9-7, but that was also the way I was feeling going into thinking we can beat the Lions this week.
Everyone thought that. Every Bears fan thought the Bears usually beat the Lions, and when they lose to the Lions like that, just hurts worse. And
So that's where I think the reality of us losing, Houston's offense has been playing better the past few weeks.
right,
So like I'm gonna treat it like I used to. I texted you like I treated White Sox rebuilds. I would go into watching a game like Mancada. I hope he has a good game. I hope he has a good game today. And if the Sox lose, they lose. So I'm gonna go into Bears games hoping. I hope David Montgomery has a good game today. I hope some of the wide receivers. I hope they get a look. I'd like to see. We're at the point right now where it's like, screw it. Give Javon Wims and Ridley more of a chance just in case
right.
Robinson does leave. Then you're wondering, okay, well, does Ridley and Wims have the talent to do it? This is the perfect time to give them more snaps to see what they really are. So I'll be watching for that. And if the Bears lose, well, they lost. So, and we're closer to a playoff pick.
Yeah, that's the scariest.
Our
That's the
draft.
scariest part for me is that the Bears go out and they win 3 of these next 4 games.
Yeah, and
They
it means nothing because I don't know what the playoff picture is exactly. Let's say we win our next 3 and what would that put? If we win our next 3, we'd be 8-7, right?
right. Wait,
So
yeah, 8-7.
so we'd be 8-7 going into Packers week. Would there even be a chance if we beat the Packers to make the playoffs at 9-7?
Oh, we wouldn't catch Green Bay, but we would get one of those extended wild card spots because as of right now, it belongs to
The Vikings
Seattle.
have the last one, right?
The Vikings are at 6-6. So if we go out and beat Minnesota, we'd leapfrog them, move up, and then it'd come down to the Arizona Cardinals, who've been scuffling since the Hail Murray, as they call it.
See, I would just hate to be like, if we won 3 games, then I'm like, yes, like let's get to the playoffs, and then we get murked by the Packers, and I'm like, well, we finished 8-8, and our draft pick could have been better, and we didn't make the playoffs. That's the worst case scenario.
When you texted me last Sunday before Detroit, you're like, oh, the Bears could still make the playoffs, and part of me was like, yeah, playoff time. The other me is like, I'd rather just tank and get Kyle Trask. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing with me is that the Bears do somehow win these next 3 games and finish 8-8. Say I'm gonna chalk up the Green Bay loss already. We go 8-8, and we somehow sneak into the playoffs, and we go out and we get, as you say, murked by Green Bay again. We lose 3 games at Green Bay, and we still win the same amount of playoff games as the Jets.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
I don't know. So let's say we finished 8-8, or let's say we finished 9-7 or 8-8. Would we still be at 13? Do you think, or how low would we fall in the draft? Do you think?
It really depends on how these other teams perform
Yeah,
around us
so
in
hard
that
to.
spot. Yeah, because you still have these 4 games, which are still big games. Like
Yeah,
we're up there with New England and Detroit's up there with us now. The Giants, you know, that's the biggest thing is if the Bears, if it was up to me, as you said, Montgomery and these other guys would do really good, and the Bears would lose them all, and we
yeah.
finish the year 5-11 and get a really good draft pick somewhere within the top
But
10.
with our luck that they're gonna go out there and win 3 out of 4.
Yeah, knowing our luck, they'd beat Houston, they'd upset Minnesota, and then they'd pick up the win against Jacksonville. Because if the Bears lose to Jacksonville, I'm not even going to be a fan by next year. I'll have to declare my free agency for a new.
Jacksonville's played well against some good teams,
That's
so
what
I
I'm
would
scared
not
of.
doubt us losing
The
to them.
Jaguars gave the Packers and the Vikings run for their money.
And the Browns too.
Yeah.
We
Well, the
played the
Browns.
Browns well too.
Let's be honest here. You've probably watched every game with your dad. The Browns are one of the more inconsistent teams in the league, along with the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. We're approaching about 2 hours. You ready to wrap this thing up?
Let's do it.
All right, go ahead and wrap it up, buddy.
Well, I appreciate everybody joining and talking about the Bears on this Sauce and Hench podcast, and look forward to the next time me and Miles can chat it up. And like we did here, I hope you guys enjoy and keep listening. I know this was a little bit on the longer side, but
Hey, it's the first one. You gotta have fun, right?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with the Bears. So
the pilot's always the longest episode.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Miles, I had a great time with you, brother.
Always fun talking football with you, Joe. Always do it every Sunday. It's a tradition.
Yes.
All right, as Joe said, thank you, and we'll see you next time on Sauce and Hench.